Welcome to the Cabral Concept, where board-certified naturopath and integrative health practitioner Dr. Stephen Cabral shares how he was diagnosed at the age of 17 with a life-altering illness and given no hope for recovery. It was only after studying and traveling all over the world did he discover how to combine ancient Ayurvedic healing practices with state-of-the-art naturopathic and functional medicine to fully rebalance the body and re-energize it with life. It's time to discover how to get well, lose weight, and finally feel alive again. And now, here's your host, Dr. Stephen Cabral.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the show. Great to have you with me here today. Looking forward to getting started with our Training Thursday edition of the Cabral Concept. Today, we're going to be focusing on the secrets behind the Biggest Loser contestants. What I want to go over today are the people, not only who were on the show, but were actually able to keep the weight off after they left the program or after they left the ranch. Now, The Biggest Loser, if you're not familiar with it, a bunch of years ago, let's say 10 years ago, very popular show, brought people onto essentially a retreat-like place where they were overseen by medical doctors, they worked out with personal trainers, and they had all of their food kind of customized for them. And then each week, they would do a weigh-in, or after a challenge, they would do their weigh-ins. And what they competed for was whoever would win the Biggest Loser challenge, whoever lost the most weight or who was not voted off. So what we're looking for right now is what we glean from that we can use in the real world. But more importantly, since many of the people, and they don't tell you this, many of the people regained the weight, why was that? I always look at both sides. And I also like to look at outliers. Why were some people successful? I want to get to that towards the end of today's show. So I want to go over the de-stress protocol that I use in my practice and how it applies to people who are on The Biggest Loser. So the first part of the de-stress protocol, we're looking at diet. And as we're looking at diet with people that were on The Biggest Loser, we know that the men were given about 1,600 calories and the women around 1,200 calories. Now, again, this is going to vary from season to season, etc. But what they were given was a food pyramid style diet, a little lighter in starchy carbohydrates, a little bit more lettuce and salads, items like that. But they were also given dairy products. So they were given some foods that clearly would help in the short term with a lower carb diet, and we've spoken about that. And the problem is they were also didn't look necessarily as total food quality. Sure, they tried to reduce the amount of processed food, but they certainly allowed quite a bit of processed food in. Now, some of that was from the show's sponsors, etc. Some of that is just not good research. Looking at people who drink milk can oftentimes lose more weight. I talked about that on my show on casein, the one protein never to consume. So check out that previous podcast because of all the detrimental, harmful effects and inflammation that comes along with it. So just because a food maybe is lower in carbohydrates, or just because a food has been shown to help lose weight in the short term, we need to look at long-term detrimental health. So we know that they were able to lose weight just from caloric reduction. The problem is, what happens is over time, when you constantly deprive the body of calories, it will start to slow metabolism. And by this, I mean your body will actually begin to require less calories so that you don't have to eat as much food, so that the food that you do eat gets all used up. Meaning like your body will eventually meet you where you're at. If you say, okay, I'm going to give you 1,200 calories a day. Great. You get 1,200 calories a day, but that's what your body's going to set at its set point. So if you have 1,400 calories, you're going to start to gain weight again. We certainly don't like to see this in my practice. And again, I've done a podcast on all these different items, but an aside to that would be you can do cyclical low carb. We do it as part of our 7-day detox or 14 or 21 days, but then you transition off of that. You cannot go low carb forever because your body literally then will not be able to handle carbohydrates. And for the most part, you have to go low carb because there's been an issue with your cell membranes. There's some type of glucose-based metabolism error. Now, some of it can be congenital if you have type 1 diabetes and there was some type of autoimmune-based process inside or with the pancreas and those alpha-based cells. But really what we're talking about is what's going on with so much type 2 diabetes. And it's not just glucose, just to throw it out there. It has to do with hydrogenated fats, omega-6s, processed food, empty calories that contain no minerals, less fiber in the diet, less protein, like all of these items. So we have to start to go deeper on our nutrition than just say, hey, I'm just going to go low carb and the weight's going to come off. Sure, in the beginning, but then look at what it does to your overall health and hormones in the long run. Very, very important to look at, okay? And remember, always remember, there is no way, like you can say, well, this happened during this, and this time. And I would say, I agree, right? Seasonally, you didn't have access to food, et cetera, et cetera. But you really think that someone would purposely choose not to eat more of a balanced diet? You don't think that someone, if they were offered an apple, that they would have eaten an apple? It's insane to me to think that anybody who's just living off the land and is essentially starving would turn you down and say, no, they're on a low carb diet. They're not going to eat that apple. That's, to me, it blows my mind that we no longer live in the real world, that the real world is actually us being in tune and connected with nature. It's not in these lit up boxes that we live in and basically right in front of a computer screen all day. It's a very arbitrary environment we've created for ourselves that's very unnatural, right? And so is depriving ourselves of any macronutrient to a degree. So now we need to look at this. What do they do for exercise? Okay, so we're looking at exercise at the ranch for the Biggest Loser, and they would do 3, 4, 5, and even 6+ hours of exercise a day. This included weightlifting. It included lots and lots of cardio. And to even reduce weight further, sometimes they would get into a sauna or they would sweat, which would make them sweat out even more water weight. Pretty insane of what it would do to the body, especially when some people had to lose 200 or more pounds. They would come in the first week and lose 30 pounds. Now remember, you can't just do this in the real world, lose 30 pounds your first week, unless you're under medical supervision, because it's going to lead me, and why don't I jump to it right now, to the toxins part of losing weight. And I did a podcast on this, and I don't know if I can find it right in front of me, but I talked about how the fat stores, your adipose tissue, gets loaded with toxins. And it does this because it's an easy way to store toxins away. I'm going to see if I can find this for you right now. And it's episode 1125, StephenCabral.com/1125, how to prevent toxins from swelling fat cells. Now, your typical person will say, that's not possible, that's not true, it's always about calories in, calories out. It's simply not true. Unless you've really looked at functional medicine lab testing and seen people eating 1,000 calories a day and they are moving their body, that we're not looking at what other possibilities there are for people gaining weight. Now, here's the crazy thing. When you lose 30 pounds, you're essentially breaking down those fat stores, a lot of those fat cells. You are oxidizing them. You are liberating the contents inside of that tissue. And when you do so, you get the calories, which is good. Like you're going to burn up those fat cells. You're going to get that adipose tissue. We'll be talking about it on a future show of how that is basically excreted out of the body through the lungs, etc. So what I want to talk about today, though, is that if your liver is not functioning properly, you will end up like a lot of people in The Biggest Loser who had headaches and skin rashes and massive lethargy or depression, because your liver has to keep up with 30 pounds of adipose tissue that was just essentially oxidized, and all of that is being moved around the bloodstream. Whatever was in the contents of that tissue is now in the bloodstream. Okay, yes, it moves to other parts of the body. Yes, it will eventually be removed through water, et cetera, from the body. And I agree. But what about all of the stored hormones? What about all of the stored heavy metals and parabens and phthalates and even things like DDT? These things, again, have all been proven. Simple Google search will show you all the different studies on all the toxins trapped away in fat cells. And again, I did a podcast on 1125 on that. So really important to look at that. Now I'm going to jump back one to stress reduction. A lot of times when we exercise, let's not just talk about 6 hours a day. Let's talk about 90 minutes a day, where a lot of people are doing long cardio sessions, running on the treadmill for an hour, etc. That can build up a lot of stress hormone in the body. When the body's under additional stress, we've seen this multiple times. It's not super common, but some people, when they exercise really intensely, their blood sugar goes up. They actually have high blood sugar after exercise. Not uncommon with a lot of high intensity exercise. Really important that you check your blood sugar levels. Check it before your exercise. Check it 5-10 minutes after your exercise. I think you'll be surprised at those people who have difficulty losing weight. You might be surprised that your blood sugar is extremely elevated. Important to look at that. That's just a stress indicator on the body. We've had people actually take a break from exercise, just a break. Now, we'll do other things. We'll keep that body active. I want to talk about that towards the end. And then they lose weight. It's crazy how it happens, but simply put, it's not that we don't want them to exercise. We do. We get them back in the gym that next week, right? We get them back exercising. But what it means is this. We need to lower stress hormones in the body. We need to lower stress from the entire de-stress protocol, from supplementation to food to whatever you need to do to lower chronic stress. Of course, working on lifestyle, but lifestyle oftentimes isn't the quick fix. That needs to be worked on over weeks and months to reframe stress, to potentially, it might take you a year to get out of a really stressful job until you find the transition that you're able to do. All of those things matter, but you can't keep yourself in that type of stress for a year. You need to do what you can right now. The next one we'll look at is rest. So important. The more you exercise, the less calories you take in, the more of a survival state you're in. Understand that the greater stress you're under, and remember, low calories or low carb is a state of stress on the body. Your body does compensate, and it can compensate really well. Our bodies are amazing. I see people, not necessarily just in my practice, but just out and around and about. I travel a lot. I'm on airplanes. And I look and I just say, I believe I shared this story with you just a few weeks ago on a Friday review, but I shared with you just sat next to this person in the airplane. I'm just there minding my own business. I'm typically reading a book. I'm working on a presentation if I'm going out to speak, whatever. I'm just, I'm there doing my thing. I don't typically eat on airplanes. It's a time for me to fast, just drink some electrolyte-based water, etc. And again, there's sometimes I'll bring some fruit, whatever I want on there, but it's light. I saw this person next to me, and this was not a long flight. We're talking maybe 4 hours or so. And that might be long for some of you, but after I've traveled to India and China and all over the world, those 4-hour flights are nothing. They seem like we just went up and we're down compared to some of the 36-hour flights with layovers, et cetera, that I've been on. But this person went from eating all the free snacks that they had, a couple bottles of the whatever wine they serve in those plastic bottles. After that, having a cup of coffee, which is like unbelievable, drinking wine and then drinking the coffee afterwards. And then drinking a Coca-Cola, just running through like whatever they could get their hands on. And again, I'm not here to judge. I'm not. I was in a state of awe, like awe more than anything. And here's why. I just see around me what we do to our body and how resilient it is. Like I literally looked at that and I said, it's unbelievable what the human body can do. Because that person doesn't look that sick. They don't really look that unhealthy, but yet they're consuming all of this processed food and essentially toxins is what it is. Phosphoric acid. That Coca-Cola is loaded with phosphoric acid. Your body needs you can't just put it in there without it compensating. It compensates for everything we do. And if it's an unhealthy food, well, we need to compensate for that. People think nothing happens when you put a very low pH soda in your body. Of course, something has to happen. It has to make sure that your body can meet all of that low potential hydrogen, all of that low pH of that. It has to actually buffer all of that acidic, or I should say phosphoric acid. That's important. It needs calcium, magnesium to do that. So when we look at all of these, processes within our body, I just find it amazing. Our body's able to adapt to that. But remember, the more stress we put our body under, whether it's GI issues, it's low carb, it's high exercise, it's high stress at work, whatever it might be, is that we need more rest. We need more sleep. And if we don't get it, then it's, as they say, it's like burning a candle from both ends. That body, that mind, it's going to burn out real fast. Probably a decade to 2 decades faster than it would otherwise. Again, there's no guarantees in life. I say that all the time. I wish there was. I tried to do everything to the best of my ability to basically compensate for the first 25 years of my life, which was an absolute horror show in terms of health and just trying to put my body back together. But I am trying to compensate now. However, there are no guarantees. And there's no guarantees even if you've been doing things right from the beginning. If you're raised in a house that they know all these things, then somehow they were taught it, from their parents or outside. But what you can say is this: if something ever happens to you, you can really have no regrets because you did everything to the best of your ability. And that's all I ask from people in my practice as well. I say that all the time, just to the best of your ability. That's it. Now, let us get you healthy first, and then let's kind of devise some cheat meals or flex meals, whatever you'd like to call them. And let's just do the best of your ability. That's it. You don't have to be perfect because we don't want to cause stress in that part too, but let's make sure that we're good 90% of the time. And by good, I mean doing the right thing, doing the healthy thing. We know that drinking wine and coffee and Coca-Cola are all together. It's probably not a healthy thing. I think, most of us, you listen to this podcast, I'm sure you read articles, those types of things. We know that that's probably just not the smart thing. If you're eating dessert, let's not pretend that it's a healthy dessert. It's a dessert. Enjoy it. Enjoy it. There's nothing wrong with that. Once a week, and again, I've got myself healthy now. Once a week, sometimes twice, I enjoy whatever it is I want. But that's it. That's it. But I thoroughly enjoy it at the time. I don't pretend. I don't make any excuses and say, oh, well, this is really this is a keto, vegan, paleo, et cetera, dessert. So it's okay. Well, it's still processed food and it's still dessert. So why don't we keep it at that and just say, hey, I'm just going to enjoy it. I'm not going to justify it. And that's that. And then move on to the healthy food, right? If it's brightly colored, you're probably moving in the right direction. All right, let's move on to the next one. The next one's emotional balance. Why do I think that this is important? And one of the secrets of The Biggest Loser, well, here's why, is that emotional balance is what's going to allow you to have a healthy relationship with food, with exercise, and not overdo or underdo. Meaning that I've seen people go both ways. Sometimes when you get overstressed and overwhelmed, you don't want to do anything. You just kind of hole up in your house, you shy away from everything, and you might turn to food. Now, there's the other direction where some people overdo the exercise to compensate for how they're feeling on the inside. Basically, they're literally trying to run from those problems. They put on their sneakers and they just run. And they just run and they keep running. They've got knee issues. They have shin splints. They've got all sorts of lower back pain. But they keep running because they're essentially trying to get that dopamine fix or get that neurotransmitter and endorphin-based boost. I don't have a problem with that as long as we're working on overall emotional balance in all of life. If you love to exercise, fantastic. That's one of the best outlets. But let's also get control of overall emotions. Now, I break all of these things down. I mean, I know that I'm making it basic today, and I'm doing this for a reason, because the more successful you carve out all of these 8 points, the better you'll be. It's all detailed in my book, The Rain Barrel Effect. The Rain Barrel Effect is essentially free. It's like $10 or less, and all profits are donated to charity. But this is exactly what I do in our practice, and I simply just want to get this out to everyone in the world, and also practitioners and integrative health practitioners and doctors and everyone else out there that is able to affect change with other people. And I hope that you are as well, even if you are the one that is the go-to person for your household or your group of friends. I think that's great too. I wish and hope that every group of friends, community, family has that go-to person. That's one of the reasons why we created the Integrative Health Practitioner, the course, so that you could become the go-to person, that you have those things for your family. And of course, we go in depth in that. Now, the next part is this. It's supplements, a supplement protocol. When you are going very low calorie and very low carb, you are no matter what, you're going to be deficient somewhere in your micronutrients. Now, you could say you're deficient in some macros as well, which is just carbs, protein, and fat. You could be deficient in protein and carbs, like a lot of people are on a keto-based diet. Now, because again, not everybody does it correctly, all right? And I'm not even promoting it to the world, that's for sure. I believe it's a medical-based diet rather than a general public-based diet, but that's a conversation for another day, and I've had that conversation. So, but the other one is this. No matter what, when you're going low calorie, even if it is balanced, it's going to be almost impossible to meet your micronutrient requirements, which are vitamins, minerals, essential amino acids, essential fatty acids, etc. And the reason is this. If you don't consume enough food, you simply can't get in enough of the micros, the vitamins, minerals, etc. Another reason is people's digestion is poor. They don't break down food very well. They don't even chew their food very well. They have lower stomach acid. They're on acid blockers. They have candida overgrowth. They have H. pylori. They have SIBO, or small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. I mean, if you have IBD, if you get bloating, if you get gas, if you have burping, it's a dead giveaway. It's a symptom that your digestion is weak and there's an imbalance. And so therefore, you're most likely going to not be able to break down, absorb, and utilize your B vitamins, your zinc, your calcium, your magnesium. I mean, that's again, very straightforward. In the literature, those people with X typically have Y, which is deficiencies in those. So really important that we look at that and we begin to help people. And I know they did a little bit of this on The Biggest Loser, which was good, is give people at least an activated multivitamin or at least a basis point to just meet their daily requirements, right? Their daily, I call it a daily foundational protocol, to just meet what you need on a daily basis. That's it. And then you don't have to make supplements your life. But what you can do is just make sure you're meeting literally your daily requirements. That's it. And then get your rest of your nutrients from whole food. A great way to go about it. Now, of course, if you have digestive issues, you should run something like an organic acids test or a stool test and a food sensitivity test to figure out what's going on. Figure out what's going on down there and inside there, because you can't see it. Your body can't tell you exactly. It tells you something's wrong by telling you, I'm bloated, I have gas, I'm constipated, I have loose stool, I have acid reflux, there's burping, any of those things. That's its way of telling you something's wrong, something is balanced, because a healthy digestive tract does not have the burping and the bloating and all of the gas. That's just the way that it is. If you have that, there's a fermentation-based issue most likely. And so you need to look at that. And again, the nice thing is there's not that many places to look, meaning like you're really just looking at bacterial overgrowth, whether it be Clostridia, H. pylori, Klebsiella, coli, something like that, okay? Or there's parasites, possibly. And then there's yeast and fungal-based overgrowth. So if we're able to narrow it down to one of those, and we can do that on a stool test, organic acids test, and then you can do a food sensitivity test as well, you're going to figure it out. I mean, that's the truth. Like, you're going to figure it out. That's why I tell people. It took me, I didn't run my stool lab or organic acids test for 4 years after I was sick, because it was never recommended to me. And that's why I tried to get these things out to the world. Because once I saw that I had all of these things, the only thing I didn't have, like I tell people, is parasites. I had the E. coli overgrowth. I had all these different bacteria, SIBO. I had Candida overgrowth. Then I was able to work on it. But I wasn't able to work on it because I didn't even know what it was. I didn't even know it existed. So I had to go to a practitioner. Then they told me there might be something wrong with my gut. They asked me if I was bloated. I was like, no. Because I didn't really know what it was. If you don't know what it is, you can't really tell people there's anything wrong with you. I just said my stomach kind of hurt. Turns out my stomach is not right beside my belly button. But how do you know that if you've never studied anatomy physiology? I'm a 17-year-old kid. I didn't study that. Again, I took a biology class in high school, but I'm not studying that. I wasn't pre-med in high school. That's not how it worked. So I tell people that all the time. You can't, and if you're a practitioner, you have to understand is when people tell you their stomach hurts, a lot of times it's not their stomach. It's their small intestines. And that's that big circle around your belly button. If you're bloated and you're kind of gassy around that belly button area, there's cramping or pain, those are the small intestines. The large intestine runs along the side, up near the right side of the rib cage, goes across about 1 inch or 2 above the belly button, all the way across and then down the left side. And that's the descending colon. Now that can hurt as well, but that can be from typically impacted feces or stool. And we can, again, that's a big thing too. I've worked with people that can't figure out why they have so much lower back pain. They go to the chiropractor, they go to the gym, they do foam rolling. And I just talked to them, I said, listen, how many bowel movements do you have per day? And they're like, per day? They're like, maybe once every 3 days. And I said, well, you could have impacted large intestine, which is your colon. And that moves, it's called the transverse colon, and it moves straight across the lower back. That's a possibility. I'm not saying that is it, but it's a possibility. Why don't we work on that? And a lot of times it's been very, very helpful. Now there's many reasons for lower back pain. Tight psoas, tight hamstrings, weak glutes, glute medius. I mean, lots of reasons, right? So, but that's one possibility. All right, moving on. So the last one is this, a success mindset. A lot of people gained back the weight after The Biggest Loser because they were in it and they were in it to win it while they were at the ranch and it was going on. But what happened was they could not take that mentality back home with them. So when they got back home, life got back in the way because their whole job now wasn't to exercise and have all of their meals cooked for them and be right there, right? And it also wasn't a competition. It was against them versus themselves. And sometimes they lack the reason. Now, what I want you to do, if you're on this weight loss kick or you're trying to get into anything with goal achievement, and we talk about that a lot on our Motivation and Mindset Mondays, is you need to have your big why. And I'm not going to go over that today. But what I want you to do is go back to the Motivation and Mindset Mondays and figure out, what is your why? Why are you losing this weight? Is it to be around longer for your kids and grandkids? To be able to enjoy with a good quality of life what you've worked so hard for? That's a great reason. Or what about for you so that your overall just quality of life, no matter how long you live, is more at peace, that you can sleep in bed without 3 pillows to prop up your body so you're not in pain? or so that you can walk with ease when you decide to travel and you walk around a city. All of these things are all great reasons why. Or maybe your why is that, hey, people in your family, they unfortunately passed away in their 60s due to heart-based conditions. And if you don't lose the weight, you might be in line for that as well with diabetes and blood pressure and cardiovascular disease or dementia. All of these things matter. So what I want people to do is focus back on their why so that it's not a competition. It's about moving towards something, not always away from something, right? Not always away from the pain, but towards something. It's towards something that you can get excited about waking up every day. And one of the last things I want to share with you and why I put this on a Training Thursday is this. What they found, because I know we have so many people on low-calorie diets right now. It's everybody. I mean, honestly, everybody. And we go through cycles, so I get it. I understand it. But I mean, it's strong right now. So all I try to, and it's not like I don't believe in it, because for the first 21 days of our weight loss-based plans, we do lower carb as well. We even do 2 shake fasting days for the detox. Like, we know it works. It works great for health, for wellness, and for anti-aging. So I don't disagree with it. The problem is you can't turn what's great for a couple weeks into a couple months or a couple years, because there are serious consequences to that. And it's a larger stress in the body, and you will start to become more catabolic. Look at a lot of the people out there. And again, I'm not one to name names, and I never would. You see them, and they're on these keto-based diets or carnivore-based diets, and they're starting to look a little drawn. And again, I'm not one to ever judge from a vanity standpoint. It has nothing to do with that. From a health standpoint. That's it. I see people just, their skin starts to become thinner, their eyes starting to get more sunken into the head. And I know that they're trying to live up to this ideal, but I'm worried because I care about people, and I'm not sure that it's the best thing to do in the long run. In fact, I know it's not the best thing to do in the long run, but I don't reach out to people. I don't give advice where none is asked for. That's it. But I'm hoping that eventually everyone comes back to the overall senses, and we use this from a cyclical standpoint, and we get to our weight, and then we learn to use carbohydrates in a better way, and we learn to stay balanced. That's what it's all about, right? I mean, achieving homeostasis. The homeostatic mechanisms of the body is what provides equilibrium, and equilibrium is the baseline that our body is constantly trying to stay at level with. So one thing that I wanted to bring you is that the most successful people from a longitudinal study done with the Biggest Loser contestants was that physical activity and energy expenditure was correlated with the most amount of weight loss after 6 years. So they did this 6-year follow-up with the Biggest Loser, and you can check out that study on that. And they found that the majority of the people did gain back the weight, but the people that didn't, they can correlate it with burning more calories and exercising more per day. Now, coming from a fitness background, I'm not all about just burning calories and doing cardio. That's certainly not it. And I'm going to bring you, maybe even next week, some great research showing that burning calories and longer bouts of cardio is not the way to go to keep the weight loss off or lose the weight. So I'm going to bring you that real soon, but that's a whole show in itself. Today, I wanted to bring you this, and I'll link it up as well. This is what it's called. Let's see if I can find the exact study. It's out of the University of Colorado, and it was at the Anschutz Health and Wellness Center. Could be a mispronunciation of Anschutz, but I'll link it up. Let's see, University of Colorado. I don't have the study directly in front of me, but I will link it up. And it has to do with the critical component of exercise over just diet in maintaining weight loss. Okay, it's called Exercise is More Critical Than Diet to Maintain Weight Loss. Now, again, do I agree with that? No, because you need both. For sure, you need both. You can't out-exercise a bad diet, as we always say in the fitness industry. So what I want you to do is, yes, look at good, healthy nutrition and dieting, but what we want to do is maintain that exercise. Now, the amazing statistic I want to give you from this, just in case you don't read the whole thing, is that the average person who kept the weight off, they did, on average, 12,000 steps per day walking. Pretty good. I think that's phenomenal. I recommend the 10,000 steps per day. You want to put in 2,000 more? Fantastic. The average person who gained the weight, at half that, 6,500 steps per day. So we always overlook the easy stuff, walking, right? Walk for about an hour and a half a day. Now that's over the entire day. That means only being on your feet for an hour and a half a day. It's not that much, right? Okay, the next thing is too, on average, they burned an extra 180 calories a day. Not huge, right? But still important. 180 calories a day adds up over time. A lot of people would correlate that with about a 3 pound or so net weight gain or weight loss per week if that's all you did. So that's great to look at. And they maintain a significantly higher metabolic rate due to exercise, which was about 300 calories per day. So again, that then would correlate to about 4 pounds or so per week if you're looking at about 500 calories or so per day. As again, it's not a perfect, that's not exactly how it works, but close enough for gaining weight or losing weight. And one thing I like to say is this, is that nothing, so losing weight, gaining weight, none of that happens in a day. One missed workout, not the end of the world. A week of missed workouts, you're going to start to slide. I mean, that's the thing. It's all about consistency. The problem with a lot of the Biggest Loser was this: 6 hours a day of exercise, calorie deprivation, competition, stress, toxicity, all the things that I just mentioned in the de-stress protocol. It came back. 1, it's not maintainable. 2, that whether they were there for 6 weeks, 8 weeks, whatever it was, that in itself was, I don't want to say torture, but that was torturous to the body. That experience is very stressful to the body. A lot of exercise output with not a lot of energy coming in through food. I don't know what the sleep was like, but it was also competition with stress. They're away from their families. That's a recipe for disaster right there. What we need to get into is a healthier lifestyle-based routine, something that can be more consistent, and it has to include exercise. If you are a person, and I have to stop here because I could go on forever with this topic. If you are a person with an endomorphic body type, and let's say you're a person who's more prone to gaining weight, exercise just has to become part of your vocabulary. It just has to be something that you do more days than not. Don't look at it as a chore. Look at it as something that keeps your body balanced. And balance is what life is all about. Thank you so much for tuning into the Cabral Concept. Truly appreciate you as always. And if this was helpful, do feel free to share it with anyone else you believe it could serve. Ever wonder what the best sauna, blue blockers, sleep trackers, wake lights, salt lamps, or other health gadgets are? Or what about the top non-toxic mattresses, sheets, soaps, bath products, toothpaste, and cookware? Or would you like to know the cleanest choices for hemp parts, meal delivery services, supplements, and much more? I personally curated, researched, and now created a resource page of all of my top picks that continues to grow each week. These are the exact products I use in my own life, with my family, in my private practice, and they're the ones I trust. To find out all of my up-to-date recommendations and all the details, simply head on over to stephencabral.com/resources.